Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho back with another video. Today I want to talk about the Shozy P20. Now this is a very interesting IEM because it's a planar IEM with a 14.5 large driver, and this driver is so big it honestly gives you the most, I guess, headphone bass experience I've ever gotten in an IEM. The bass sounds really large, it comes from around you. It sounds honestly bigger than any bass I've heard in an IEM, and it also comes with the benefit of the planar detail. This thing is extremely detailed. It goes all the way down to the sub bass, and it sounds like a subwoofer down there, which is amazing. It's one of the best quality bass I've heard, and it's not like a lot of planar IEMs I feel like have closer to like flat or slightly boosted bass. This is like extremely boosted bass. This is like really fun bass. I think a lot of people will dig the way this sounds. I think the combination, that big factor, that kind of deep and that detail, I think will make this IEM stand out from the crowd. I think a lot of people will be interested because of its performance in the bass area. So without further ado, let's dive into the details of this one. And of course, as always, I want to thank Linsol for sending this one out for review. If you guys are interested in this product or any of the other ones, I'm comparing this to like the Moondrop Aria 2, as well as I'm pairing it to the SIMGOT EM6L. If you guys are interested in any of these, you guys can pick it up at Linsol. All right, so let's unbox the Shozy. Now, this kind of box, I had to like stare at this. I was like, what is that? And I realized that's their logo, but it took me like, 2.5 seconds to think about it. So maybe the logo needs to be a little bit more clear, but it's very edgy, I guess. But let's get this out and actually see what we got. All right, so I opened it backwards. Nice. We have the same kind of cool edgy little logo. I kind of like how this is like this like brushed metal looking type of thing, but it's definitely not. It's more of a softer feeling, but it has this like brushed metal type of texture. That's kind of cool. And then we have each bud individually wrapped. This is a very interesting way of wrapping things. There's no like, I guess, plastic that you normally see to kind of hold it in place. All right, so a closer look at the Shozy P20. It has this nice design that looks kind of like a cool logo, something you would see from like, I don't know, I feel like the ancient Aztecs or something, but it's a really cool type of design. It's like all metal right here, so it's very sturdy. It's a really nice faceplate. On the back, we have a little bit of a comfort groove, so you can see it kind of divots. It fits really well in my ear. It's very small, it's very light. That's what I really like about it, and I really don't have that much of an issue. The only thing I would say is the tips don't seem that long, which is probably a good thing for a lot of people. I feel like this thing just kind of sits very securely into my ear. It doesn't hang out like a lot of bigger IEMs. So this one is really small, and I really like that. Now, on top of it being small and kind of lightweight, I do find that the cable this comes with is extremely thin and small. Like this is one of the thinnest cables I've ever seen in an IEM. And this makes it really like, honestly, a thinner cable is harder to make than a thicker cable. And this is really nice because like when IEMs are in your ears, they basically hang off it. So those bigger, thicker cables are really heavy a lot of times, and I don't really like feeling it in my ear, versus these lighter cables really are just kind of more comfortable. So I feel like the whole experience of this in my ear is honestly very comfortable. Now we can talk about the tips that this comes with. So it comes with, I want to say like 3 tips, but it's really probably 2 tips. But I'm using what I call the wide bore tips, and you can kind of see some earwax in there. That's kind of gross. But the wide bore tips are honestly the best sounding ones for me. I feel like the treble comes out a little bit more. The bass is a little bit less mid-bassy. So overall sounds a little bit more balanced, versus it comes with the narrow bore ones. So I'll show you guys that one. So here you can see these narrow ones. They're not as wide, and these kind of focus the bass more, and the treble gets a little bit more smooth. So if you want the smoothest signature, then I would go with these kind of thinner bore ones. And then the third tip they have is this really wide bore one that's like just the biggest one. I tried these on, at least for my ears, they're just like no bass at all when I was trying it. So I don't really recommend the biggest size, but it might fit differently in your ears. So when it comes to sound, I think the P20, like I said, the bass is really the highlight of this area. The big driver, big bass, deep sub bass, lifted mid bass. Like this thing just has bass for days. If you want to feel like you're at the club, you're at a concert, this one really puts you in that environment. Now, when it comes to kind of the mid-range and the treble, I feel like this one does have just a little bit of a kind of recession in the upper mid-range. So a lot of like the female vocals, they all sound just not as forward. They're still there, very present, but they're not as forward as like the, you know, Moondrop Aria 2. But I do think that it has a really good presence in it. It's just a slight decrease to make it a little bit more smooth overall in the tonality. And I think it still highlights the vocals really well. And really it makes this into a kind of a warm, smooth signature. Won't be harsh in the treble. Now I can see the flip side of people. Some people like the more enhanced treble on something like the Sim got right here. And maybe the treble won't be as interesting for them for this. But I think there's also a lot of people who are kind of younger, or a lot of people who like the smoother type of treble sound will really enjoy this one, especially for our planar, because the thing was I did, you know, review other ones. So I think I reviewed the Moondrop Stellaris. That one had a lot of detail, but the tuning of that one wasn't that great. And it was kind of like too trebly. It wasn't that great. I feel like a lot of planar IEMs are kind of like that, where the treble kind of caused an issue. I didn't really have an issue at all with the Shozy. So I feel like that's a great thing to see on this one. And overall, the tuning of this is really excellent for anyone to listen to. So I think that is quite an amazing feat that they have achieved. And all this at the price point of $140. Now, we want to talk about the last thing, which is soundstage and imaging. So for me, a lot of times I'll be listening to music, but I'll be playing games to really get an accurate depiction. So I'll play competitive games, Valorant, to see how good that is. And when I'm playing the game, I realize that the kind of imaging on this is only average. Like I definitely had a little bit of an issue judging when things were kind of like behind me a little bit. So I feel like this isn't like the best like competitive IEM out there, but I don't think the imaging is that bad. When I'm listening to music, it's perfectly fine. I enjoy it. When it comes to kind of the sound stage, I noticed that this is really tall, right? Because of the kind of big drivers. So things sound really tall, but they don't really sound as wide as I would expect it to. So I would say it's only average. It just sounds kind of like a closed back, like it's just like next to your ear, if that makes any sense. I mean, it is in your ear, obviously. So I wouldn't say the soundstage is anything to, you know, notice. Something like the EM6L with the multi-driver seems to have a bigger soundstage. So if you're looking for that, that would be more interesting / better imaging if you're playing competitive games. But when it comes to things like, you know, bass slam, how big it sounds, the dynamics, this one does a lot better than the EM6L. The EM6L has a good tonality, but it just doesn't sound as big and as fast and resolute as it sounds on the P20. Now, even compared to the Moondrop Aria 2, I find the Moondrop Aria 2 bass to be honestly really good. It just honestly just slightly behind this one in terms of bass quality, the deep sub bass notes, and definitely the size of the bass is also going to the P20. Like, it really isn't an understatement to say this sounds like headphone bass because it sounds so big. And like I said, that is kind of its shining feature. However, I do think the Aria 2 has a little bit more of a treble emphasis. Sometimes it might be a little bit too much for some people, versus in comparison to the P20, it's a little bit more smoother, and you know, the vocals are just slightly laid back for female vocals. And the last thing I would like to mention is this one also has kind of a lower mid-range and mid-bass boost. So kind of the male vocalists kind of stand out a little bit more, but the bass does slightly start intruding on a little bit of the male vocals, but it's really not that bad, but you can definitely hear a little bit of it. But overall, I think tuning wise, this is just a smooth, warm sound that a lot of people can enjoy. So in conclusion, I definitely recommend the Planar Shozy P20. I think at its price point of $139, I think it's like $10 or something more for the 4.4 Pentacon cable if you're interested in that one. But really, this is a kind of fun IEM sound, very large, very bassy. So if you're into that type of sound, I would definitely look at this one, pick it up. And obviously, you know me, I really like my Planars. I mean, I have like a $3,000 planar headphone. I have basically tons of planars because I just really love the detail that you get out of this. And so that lift and bass plus that kind of planar detail really just hits it home for me. Anyways, I hope this video is helpful. Please like and subscribe down below. Helps my videos out. And I'll see you guys in my next video. I'll be, you know, probably reviewing the Kiwi Allegro. This thing looks like a Game Boy. It's pretty cool. So we'll talk about that.